There's a public outcry for people who want a better planet, and there are powers that be that let the people panic. Look at the Gulf of Japan, could they have really planned it? Heading for the iceberg like the Titanic.
Atlantic mystery, Atlantis white from history. The truth about the pyramids in ancient Mayan prophecy.
Space Odyssey, look into the anomalies, and you will find suppression of free energy technology.
A false democracy born out of a monopoly. Sacred knowledge robbery, like the towers they toppling.
No stopping free.
J-Brain,
Vito C.
Coming from the inner me.
Free energy.
The oil's running dry.
Our money's burning out.
Solar panels on the roof of the White House.
Hey!
We bringing on some real change.
Water catchment system.
We collecting rain.
Time to gather round. The moment's now. I want it all turn out. And from the crowd, be the one who's the meditation. It's time for freedom and
Oh, welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. You know, I haven't talked about the way I sense energy for a while, and I don't know what it is that's made me not talk about it, or why I haven't talked about it. Maybe it's kind of the chaotic sense that I've been getting out of it here in the last month. It's been pretty crazy. I mean, with all the solar stuff that's going on, and we seem to be in a little bit of a lull right now as far as that's concerned, but energetically it's just been, I don't know, kind of hard to wrap my mind around a good way to explain it. But there's been some definitely new stuff coming in that is really shaking stuff up, consciously anyways, for me personally anyways. A lot of new thoughts, a lot of old thoughts that coming back up for review. I don't know, how's it been for you here in the last month, Ramon?
I don't know, it's just been like la kind of feeling. You know, it's really strange, because the way I've been feeling, it's like you know, you get to a point where you don't know what to believe, which way to turn your head anymore. Right. And it's, you know, it's like, go left, right, what? Yeah, so that's, when it comes to a lot of things, that's the way I've been feeling, so just been kind of laid back. I think also I've been really distracted because I've been studying so much Japanese and breaking my head with the Chinese characters.
Well, if you have something solid like that to focus on, I suppose you can, you know, block all the rest of the crap out.
Yeah. Plus, here in Japan, it's like it's very easy to get just caught up in the day-to-day and not realize what's going on around you. But you know, I saw something in the one of those news articles, and it wasn't like a major one. I can't remember the name of it, but they were talking about some guy who sold weapons and stuff like that to cops and police station, and one of the guys who does like Homeland Security that buys weapons from them was saying, like, don't go anywhere from now to November, like during election. And then the guy went and I guess put this, and he was asking him why, but he couldn't get anything. I'll put that link on the news. I don't have it on the news right now, but I saw that, and you know, it's like, again, I don't know what to believe when it comes to anything they say.
Yeah, well, if it comes through the mass media, I'm pretty much just leave it out there.
Yeah, it wasn't main media. It was one of those underground media ones. Yeah. Actually, the same media we had the giant whale.
Oh well, there you go. Oh no, I just got you know, with all of that stuff, everything out there, all the whole internet, whether or not it's a site that you trust or not, you know, you still got to use your discernment. I mean, because these guys, most of this stuff, it's all secondhand knowledge that's coming out. You know, most of the actual experiencers or the the victim / perpetrators are not the ones that are reporting it. So you gotta always take everything with a grain of salt and use your own best discernment with it before don't swallow it hook, line, and sinker until you know that you got a fish on, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, don't start selling it in the market without getting to the dock first.
Right. So this show tonight is this is gonna be one of those 100th Monkey extras, and I'm pretty excited about bringing this guy on. He's doing some real cutting edge stuff, and for me, I'm pretty good with math, but this stuff has really made me go, I'm really curious to find out some of the practical applications of what they're putting together here. I don't know. Where are you at with math, Ramon?
Anything that I don't use in math, I've forgotten.
All right.
So anything above fractions, I forgot.
Well, guys, we've got Randy Powell with us tonight. He's the senior researcher for the Vortex-Based math project that they're associated with Marco Rodin. And I know a few of you guys listening here will be familiar with some of this material. Marco Rodin, the Rodin coil, with all the coil stuff that we've been putting out there. And he's Randy's coming up in the world here and getting some good exposure, and he's got some really fantastic ideas, and they're working on raising the consciousness of some of this new technology, some of the new ways to look at our universe, and apply some of the sacred geometry and sacred mathematics to our physicality. So Randy Powell, welcome to the Hundredth Monkey Radio.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the kind introduction. You didn't know, but you actually have a second guest on your show tonight. That is Serafina the kitten, and she may be chiming in from time to time because this is her time to be out and about, so I wouldn't want to interrupt.
Oh, sweet. Well, we'll probably hear my chihuahuas run through the house in the background here before the show's over too. They like to make an appearance once in a while.
My cat's out in the streets.
Huh? So Randy, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what got you into what interested you in mathematics in the first place, and then what interested you in outside of the box mathematics?
Well, I've been pretty outside of the box from the get-go. I don't even think I was aware that there was a box. It was far too late for me to get into it. I was too big at that point.
You were born outside the box, huh?
Yeah, but, for me, mathematics, the way that I look at it, it's just like logic, it's just basic relationships that are necessary in order for existence to go down in the way that we're experiencing it. So I don't see it as all these abstract formulas and isolated terms that need to be pieced back together in the way that conventional mathematics chooses to approach the subject. And so I just like to start with basic principles and to show that they're that they exist in everything, that even the modern scientific research is just revealing the exact same thing. So it's not really that I'm against the establishment either, though I'm not against any data that is released. I am against some of the philosophical dispositions that have been taken towards that data that I don't think follow from the data itself. But, simple principles like unity, even the Big Bang in itself were it to be true, it would be a kind of unified field theory, because in the end it is saying that it's all one, so all calculations, all number sequences must begin from that initial oneness. And that's one of the just basic logical principles that brought me into concepts like vortex math. My own personal background, as far as what led me into this, and I've told this before, and it's there's a lot of details to the story, but I'm just going to give the very short of it, which is that I was really inspired by an experience that I had when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I got really interested in this question about what does a human soul or a human spirit, what is its appearance? What does it look like? Where is the soul in the body? And what is its image? And mainly I was interested, it's kind of a weird question to be asking when you're a little kid, but mainly, I guess I don't think of it that way, but sitting here telling you now, I'm starting to realize that it is kind of a weird thought. Largely inspired by the fact that my father passed away when I was really young, like 2.5, and so I was just interested in the afterlife and what was beyond this physical world, because I came up with that kind of awareness, that specter of death being around me. And after I asked this question to myself, I ended up encountering this image of caduceus, or sometimes it's called a medical symbol, or some people say it's a symbol for commerce. It was associated with Hermes, and it's 2 serpents wrapped around a pole with the wings outspread at the top. I think most people with any interest in occult or things like that, are pretty aware of that symbol. But growing up as a Methodist in suburban Virginia, or from a Methodist family anyway, I was very much not exposed to any occult in my early childhood. But I encountered this image at a hospital, and it just occurred to me at the time, logically, or to what at my 5-year-old brain was logic, that this would be the place to find the image, and that was the image. That's what a human soul looked like, and I felt satisfied with that. And I had this experience where I was sitting in my parents' church one day, and I just closed my eyes and I started visualizing, inside my body where this thing exists and lived, and I saw or imagined that it existed at the base of my spine. And so my next question was, what happens when I die? And I just had this imagination or visualization of this caduceus coming to life and the serpents crawling up my spine until they went into the center of my brain, where the wings would open up and the top of my head would open, and the caduceus would fly out, and it would fly to heaven, where it landed on cloud 9. And I got the Cloud 9 thing, as far as I can remember, from the television show Bewitched, which was on when I was a little kid. And I would always watch that show during the day when I was a little kid. And when they would go to the spirit world, they would go to Cloud 9.
Right.
I had this imagination, and it was in the course of visualizing this that I had a really profound mystical sort of out-of-body experience. And it happened very quickly. It was almost just like in an instant, but there was so much condensed experience in that one instant. It was like everything all at once, or, all space-time in a nutshell, like James Joyce would say. And it was, I didn't have those words for it then, but it was really a shocking and overwhelming experience of life, of eternity. And so, that experience really freaked me out when I was a kid, and it's just something that kind of stuck with me, and I always had this image in my mind. And, as I got older, I remembered it, but it didn't really stand out necessarily to me until I was a teenager, and I encountered a book on yoga. And I opened it up and started reading it, and they started showing this image of the caduceus. You know, they called it the kundalini, and they showed it that it, you know, is stored at the base of the spine, exactly like I'd imagine, and that when you awaken the chakras, it goes up the spine into the center of the brain where, you know, it can ascend through leaving the crown chakra, and that is, you know, the ascension at the death of the yogi, and or at the enlightenment of the yogi. And it just struck me, because I knew right away it was a direct experience that I had engaged with a thought or an experience that was not my own completely. You know, that there was universal to find it thousands of years ago in the yoga thing, something that I, you know, in my later teenage years, I had thought was a completely random, you know, imagination of my own. And so it really convinced me that there is a collective consciousness, that it was a kind of direct experience of that. So I went on to study all the ancient knowledges and mysticisms of the world, and I found a thread throughout, and I connected it eventually with its ultimate expression, which is called the Ouroboros, you know, or the serpent that swallows the tail. And I, particularly through studying shamanism and then, you know, into a lot of the ancient mystical traditions, which we could get into if you're interested, I was able to kind of decrypt myth and to understand that this form of the Ouroboros represented like another level, like a spiritual body, and that there was something truly significant to it, that it was the answer and the key, that it would be associated with the number 9, because the number 9 was referenced throughout all these traditions. So,
right.
Feel free to stop me at any point if you want to.
Well, I'm gonna stop you right now. Actually, okay, had a little technical snafu there, but we're back. And so, Randy, you want to pick up where you left off there? This is all fascinating stuff. I love hearing where you've been and the path that you've taken to get where you're at right now. So.
Yeah, I actually was gonna say it's amazing what a kid's mind can come up with if they're not hindered whatsoever. I was gonna go into the number 9 because the number 9 really fascinates me, because it's the only number that no matter what you multiply it with or add it with, it always go back into itself.
Not add it with. You can just multiplication, division. Addition's a different story, Ramon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, I noticed the number 9 anomaly quite early myself too, and it when I started my wake up process, I got into numerology, and the 9 absolutely fascinated me, the way it works, and the only number out of the 9 numbers, the only number that has quite that quality. I mean, the 3 and 6 in the Vortex-Based math are pretty cool too, but the 9 is that one special number, I think.
If you know, you can get technical with it. You know, if you talk with a mathematician, you know, they'll tell you that that's just because we use the base 10 or modular 9 counting system, and our numbers are based on that. So that's why it appears, but that in truth, any base counting system, if you learn about the different bases, will have that property at whatever its top number is. So you can do it. You have to go through extensive work to actually prove that you can only do it with the properties of vortex-based mathematics, with a prime squared base system. And I'm being a little technical, but essentially it's a prime squared base system that would generate this geometry of a torus. But then I was able to do further work and show that the base 10 or modular 9, what makes 9 unique is it's based on the first true prime, which is 3 squared. And 3 is, I've been able to show and demonstrate mathematically, is the only solely unique prime that exists in a group all of its own, separate from all other prime numbers. All other prime numbers are generated by a sequence which starts with the number 5. And all these different systems, through extensive analysis, have been able to show, reduce back this base 10 modular 9 system, and the modular 9 system is the only one that makes a single geometry, one single three-dimensional shape with intersecting X, Y, and Z axes. And it has all the functions of all the numbers occurring simultaneously on one geometric shape. Once you go into the next high, base system, which is base 26, modular 25, you have to have at least 2 toruses, and so forth. So it now makes significance on its own, and that remains to be seen. People need to, get more advanced in the math, and that's up to us to just catch people up. And, it's been a long time. I haven't had any videos up in years, so a lot of people don't really have an idea of how far it has come,
well, I think you and Mark Roden have really inspired another generation to really, because there's like a younger generation that's maybe, at least 10 years younger than me, that's really, experimenting and doing stuff with the Roden coil and the ab coil, which is amazing.
Yeah, I believe Daniel on your show. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Daniel and Jason Verbelli is another one, and
great guy. I've met him several times.
Yeah.
So 5 years old, that experience you had at 5, I find that synchronous with me, because that was I had an out-of-body experience at 5 years old myself, and I flew through the skies of Phoenix, and that was it was a big marker point in my life also, but it kind of did something different for me. It shut down my dream state. From 5 years old to 29, I didn't remember a single dream. So, that was kind of anomalous for me. But that 5 years old thing, I've heard quite a few different people who had some form of experience at 5, mystical experience at 5, that left quite a impact on them.
You're right. There may be something about that age. I'm not sure that I remember it. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but it would have been around 4 or 5, because I do remember it was right after, not too long after my mom had remarried, so that was kind of my reference point. But yeah, we're all very open. Our antenna is very open and receptive at that age, and we don't, and this has a positive and a negative. We don't really have the logical type of filters or barriers to our imagination. And so if we learn how to use that side of our consciousness, we can derive a lot of information out of it that doesn't exist in the rational sphere, but at the same time, there's a point to the rationality as well, and that does have a place here in this physical world. So, interesting thing about vortex-based mathematics to me is it's really the place where the two intersect, and it's a spiritual aspect to physics and a material aspect to spirituality.
Right.
Yeah, one of the problems that I find with science is that they leave out the consciousness, and it's shown time and time again that that's, you know, a big part of it.
Yeah,
So it's
hard to write consciousness out of a philosophical theory. You know, I mean, it's just kind of, you know, it's like, I don't know what you would compare it to, but it's like.
Okay, back with after another little snafu, and we changed a line here, and hopefully we're good to go for the rest of the show tonight. So, Randy, do you remember where you were there?
Yeah, I think I can get back somewhere around there. Well, just to tie together the story I was telling at the beginning, because it does have some relevance to all this, in relation to your question about how I got interested in the math, was that, you know, this common myth, kind of shamanic myth, if you want to call it that I found all over the world involving these same symbols, ultimately led me on this quest, particularly through Middle Eastern mysticism, into a legend that exists in the Middle East about this most great name of God. So in all the religions, most of the religions, you know, you have the sacred names that you recite. And the idea is that through reciting these sacred names of God, you can imbibe those qualities of the divine, whether it's intelligence or beauty or whatever, love. And there was said to be this most great name of God, which would be revealed in the Age of Enlightenment, and that the most great name of God would contain all the other names of God within it, and that it would sort of be the skeleton key, if you will, for tapping the divine intelligence. And I knew that this myth was connected to these images, to this caduceus image, to this Ouroboros image, and to the number 9. And basically, when I encountered Marco Rodin's work initially, you know, after years and years of building up this body of information on this particular myth and the different symbolisms in it, and the fact that it was connected with the names of God and the mathematics of those names and the languages. And then within 5 minutes of watching his first presentation, you know, he's tying this equation based on the number 9 to this shape of the toroid, which is just like an Ouroboros. It's the same reticulation pattern over the surface of it. And said that he decrypted it from what's called the most great name of God out of the Baha'i Faith scriptures, which is a fairly recent, you know, world religion that was founded in Iran about, you know, within the last 200 years. So I wasn't too deeply familiar with that at the time, but, you know, it just immediately, like several things clicked together, and I realized that this was a path that I was supposed to be on, something I was supposed to study, and I had no idea at that time, by any stretch of the imagination, that I would be making major discoveries in it and you know, contributing so integrally to the project.
Right. You feel, what about the synchronicities on your path? You find you were in a synchronistic world as you started delving into this?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, you know, happened to me periodically, you know, when I was younger, and I've told some of those stories in some of the videos that are online. You know, just weird kind of psychic experiences or, you know, strange, unexplainable coincidences that, you know, they would happen enough that it, it's like what Robert Anton Wilson called the cosmic people, It happened enough that I knew that there was something going on there. And so, but then when I got a little bit older, particularly in the years leading up to working on the Vortex mass, and in the years since, those kinds of experiences have really increased, and they seem to amass whenever important events are happening, and it's hard to really understand or decrypt all the symbolism and the meaning of it all, but I think it's just there to give you the signal that the time is right, or that you're following the next clue properly.
Right, yeah. I noticed the same thing, and with so many people, as they put their feet on the right path, or their destined path, or their chosen path, however you want to term that if they're conscious of the world around them, the synchronicities just go through the roof. I mean, it happened for me, and I know it happens for Ramon. It happened for this radio show. I mean, when we put this show together, it was 2 weeks of some of the most intense synchronicities I've experienced, and it's just, I find it just, I'm totally in awe of the way this universe works when it comes to that sort of thing, because there's really no physical, understandable explanation for it yet. I think there's something out there.
Well, there isn't when you approach it analytically, but when you look at it synthetically, in the sense that it's all one to begin with, I mean, what other way could it be than extremely intricately, to the utmost, mathematically connected? And, to me, that's where the synchronicities led me, was to this understanding that there is a deterministic aspect to this reality, and the intricacy of the mathematical programming of this reality, which doesn't, I'm not saying that in the sense to make us out to be robots, because I think we're the ones that programmed it.
Right.
And that we're participating in it consciously, but obviously in our day-to-day world, at least I don't feel like I'm fully conscious of what that matrix, really is and how it operates. I believe that you can get glimpses into it, and maybe in very peak mystical experiences, you can even become it or become one with it. But I think in our human waking consciousness, it's very hard to comprehend, because we have extreme difficulty overcoming the subject-object, relationship paradox.
Right. Well, but even still within that, the math is still math. I mean, and even if you equate our actions and our thoughts to mathematics, 1 + 1 still equals 2. So in that sense,
well, that's why I like mathematics in the sense, because if you analyze enough, you study enough philosophy, you realize at a certain point that when you really break down the language and the logic, I mean, we really don't know anything. I mean, we're just made, everything is a kind of a guess. And the reason that I like mathematics is because it is one area of knowledge in which there really is a sort of right answer, There really are set relationships. And that's not to say that there can't be a lot of interesting ambiguity that occurs within that world because of its extreme complexity, but at its root, there is a reason and a method to it. And I think that everything really is full of meaning, because everything, in a sense, is a language, and that's really the ultimate mystery. I mean, it's the word. It's much deeper than all of our theories utilizing it.
Exactly.
What I find extremely fascinating is the way this vortex just relates to everything. I mean, if you think about the way a tree grows to the way an apple looks, the way an orange looks right in the middle, you have that vortex kind of thing happening, the way our atmosphere moves around, the way the magnetic field moves around, our own magnetic field. A tornado is just amazing, and it's like right in our face, screaming in our face.
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere that we observe, and everything that we observe from the, from the subatomic to the galactic, it's all spinning. It's all in motion, and it's all spinning around an axis, or at least the majority of it, the huge majority of it, and I don't know of anything really that isn't in its end. And so, people come up with various explanations to that spin, none of which are very satisfactory to me. But, I get attacked if people say, how do you know, you can't know that the universe is in the shape of a torus. And of course not. I don't know anything. I'm barely aware of what's going on in my front yard right now. But I think that by all logic, it would be reasonable to assume, since all data is only based on what we observe, that if everything we observe is spinning around an axis like this, and then somebody is able to come along and show that the numbers themselves, in this amazing way that we never realized, are doing the exact same thing, that they're demonstrating their own physics, their own angular and ratio relationships, and I think that it's reasonable to assume that the two may be connected, being that everything began as one by the current theory, then really the true nature of multiplicity in the universe has to be derived from some sort of principle of division, which is what we're trying to demonstrate in vortex-based mathematics. Scientists like to toss around the words that don't really make sense, and I always press them on this, and they get really frustrated because I'm just asking simple questions. I mean, I'm no genius. I think it's my slowness that helps me maintain through all of this and just get to the heart of it. But I had an astronomer tell me, well, there's no underlying structure to the universe. The galaxies are just randomly distributed. He's an astronomer, I'm not, but I asked him, well, what does that mean, randomly distributed? I mean, does that mean there weren't any laws of physics operating on them, that they just appeared where they are for no reason? Certainly, if you're tracing it all back to this unified explosion at the Big Bang, then there must have been perfectly predetermined laws enacting upon everything, positioning it exactly where it is up to this moment. The only other explanation would be that it's just coming out of nowhere right now, which I'm willing to go with as well, and maybe that's more of the quantum aspect. But in the sense of looking at mechanics and physics, it has to have this type of determinism in it. I mean, that's what science is really all about, as they look at it. It's about making predictions and being able to verify them. For me, the PBM is a little bit different. This is the way that I look at it, in that I'm not trying to make predictions and verify them. What I'm trying to do is break down all the predictions and just outdo them. So I just try to find predictions and try to do something better. And so far, on a primitive level, we've been pretty successful at it. And Daniel's work is showing that.
Yeah, it's really, really, it just blows my mind. What are some of the projects that or some of the tests that you've done that really determined this for you?
Well, you know, like I said before, I came into this sort of out of left field from a mystical point of view, and, you know, it's my interest in the languages. Fortunately, you know, Marco had gotten this out of Arabic, Abjad numerical system, and fortunately I studied Arabic in school, and so I had some background in it in order to understand how that mathematical system works. So because of my familiarity with that, it helped me to be able to penetrate into this system a little bit. I mean, all I ever had when I encountered him was just that video that's on YouTube, same as everybody else. And it took a lot of work to realize that there was a different solution to this than what everybody knew. And, you know, and that I could actually demonstrate it and prove it mathematically, and all the questions that answered and brought together for me, you know, it just, it seemed to be on coincidence to me. So I started studying it further, and then I really started learning about the science aspect of it, learning more about the physics, which I was decently read in popular science and all that. You know, so I had some sense of the history of science, and had studied it in school to some degree, but I wasn't an expert. So I really spent a lot of time learning a lot about that, looking at a lot of journals, connecting data that's going down on the cutting edge of science with the predictions and observations that were coming out of Vortex-Based. And that kept confirming that there was definitely something here. I mean, every principle that we had brought up out of this seemed to be demonstrated by research that we could tap into, and the questions that were coming out of it weren't answered by any modern scientific theories, weren't even approached or addressed in many cases. So I went around and met with lots of experts and lots of professors, and I went right to the heart of the people I knew would me the most, the different skeptics groups, and I, you know, let them tear into me, and I found that I was really defending my position very well, and that they had no answers for a lot of the questions that I thought were very relevant. And so it just kept bolstering me, realizing that I wasn't an expert in this field, but that I could hold my own with PhDs in mathematics and physics based on these simple ideas and simple notions. You know, that really kept me going. And eventually, you know, Jack Scholes built a prototype of this geometry that I had begun to outline, which has been much more developed now. And, you know, when he started testing it, all these crazy anomalies started happening, like the one that's shown in my TED Talk where, you know, he just pulses it with the, you know, electric field for a brief moment and then disconnects it, and there's obviously still energy in the system for quite a while. Yeah. And so then I took that around and showed it to lots of engineers and people, and nobody really could explain what was going on there. You know, and it's just gone on and on. Daniel's been another person who's really done a lot of work, and you know, I've taken it to PhDs, very famous, well-known PhDs in experimental physics, and regardless of whether or not it's at the totally commercializable level, it defies the laws of electrical engineering as they're known.
Right.
So, you know, maybe I can't be put in the science category of being able to really control the outcome of everything yet, or know exactly what this is going to do. But I find that interesting, and I like playing the role of the kind of iconoclast in that sense, because I think that ultimately this technology, to really truly function and sustain, it has to be what we would call alive.
Right.
And so, you know, that brings up a whole nother.
Yeah.
So, you know
question.
You know what's amazing is, sorry, Tom. You know what's amazing? Like someone like Daniel, who just does this out of his house and doesn't. It's not like he went to school for this or anything. You know, he's a bartender. I don't know if he's still bartending, but and then when he's off,
yeah, he's a model, man. You know, he's
Yeah.
a fitness model.
Yeah.
I saw him on an infomercial one night when I was I was at my mom's house because I don't even have TV. I was at my mom's house in Virginia, and I turned on an infomercial, and there was Daniel doing some insanity training. And I was like,
Nice.
yeah, who would ever know that the guy in the infomercial is bringing free energy to the world?
Yeah. So in all your mystical studies throughout the years, what kind of allusions to this mathematics have you found? You know, in any innuendos within what you've studied?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot to it. The first thing that becomes clear is just this general reverence and mystical quality to the number 9. Now, there's many different numbers that have been held in reverence in different systems, but I've never seen anything with the and with the kind of associations that happens with the number 9. You know, I started first noticing it. You know, it was yoga that kind of led me into taking a bigger interest in shamanism, and you know, through studying shamanism, I kept seeing it creep up in terms of the levels of the different underworlds or higher worlds of the ancestors, you know, in various places. And these are among cultures that, you know, didn't have mathematics.
Right.
You know, so, you know, and the interesting thing is there was a study done on this that was actually a program on XTRA about it one time where they did a study of indigenous cultures around the world and asking them certain mathematical questions, and these were cultures without Western mathematical exposure. And hands down, across the world, in all these various cultures, if you ask somebody, for instance, what is the middle number between 1 and 9, what would you say?
I would say
5.
5.5.
Yeah, 4.5, but
4.5, right? Every single, in every single case, without exception, the answer was 3. Because apparently the natural way of understanding and looking at numbers is, in that sense, harmonically. You know, so this was something that was existing on a very primal level, but then you can start to see it really develop. You know, I mean, there's so many examples. The Vikings and the Norse culture in general had this huge reverence for the number 9. It's all throughout the Norse Eddas talked about. Odin hung on the world tree for 9 days and nights, and then, you know, he brings back these 2 groups of 9 power songs. You know, you see it in the Celtic legends, in the ancient Irish legends. You know, they talk about over the 9 waves of the sea in Ireland, and it's just extreme amounts of references to the number 9. You know, but it's everywhere. It's in Hinduism. It's in China, and particularly, what was interesting to me about it is that it's very often, very commonly connected with this image of the cosmic serpent or the Ouroboros. You know, I just found that to be something that didn't seem to have any logical explanation in the way that we study history or you know, particularly human history, in the sense of, you know, you're looking at people who had no connection with each other, supposedly. And they're all, and, you know, even in these modern indigenous cultures, they all seem to have certain ingrained number or numerical awarenesses. And so, I don't know, that was a long explanation. I don't even remember what the question was, but hopefully I got it somewhere in there.
I was just fishing for any you know, number associations that you found in your mystical studies.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of them. I have a whole presentation on it that goes through, kind of breaking it all down. That's what I really went to school for, was studying religion, in particular philosophy and religion, and had an emphasis in the mystical tradition.
That's so funny that led you into this.
Yeah, it's ironic. I mean, I always had an interest in science, and I was interested in the philosophy of science and trying to understand ultimately what it is that science is telling us beyond just, when will the solid drop out of the liquid when you mix these two things, to try to get some of the deeper aspects of science. And I always read a lot about that because I think it's got to be all one. Our spiritual understanding and our physical understanding have to be unified at some point. And so I was always interested in those questions, but never until I encountered this math did I really have a concrete way of getting at it.
Right.
And
so there's always this discussion of not really religion, spirituality and science being on opposite fence, and it sounds like you found the door between the two, like you and Mark.
Yeah, well, people love to polarize things, and the truth is when there's what scientists say when they're being interviewed and they're thinking about their public persona, and there's what they say behind closed doors when you really talk to them with much detail. The truth of the matter is that none of us have a clue about what's really going on. We're all taking, making good tries at it, and it's not. I'm not saying that to devalue people's theories or insights. I think they all are valid, or maybe not all insights are valid, but good insights are generally valid. If they, but they're only a piece of the puzzle. It's very hard to get a whole view, and we just like to polarize things, and maybe it's our nature. And you can see it in the current debates. The current debates among whether or not people believe in God or some kind of ultimate spirit or consciousness. It's so dumbed down between, either you believe it's the literal word of the Bible or you have to believe what Charles Darwin said. And it's sort of like our political system. There's a lot more information out there. And I think, science has a hard time coming to terms with the fact that just like religion does, I mean, science is another version of that, sort of a rationalist religion maybe, in the sense that when information comes up that really doesn't fit into the standard model, they tend to sweep it under the rug just as much as anybody else. And, now in where we are here in 2012 and the kind of information that's out there, I think it's very easy to gather information that doesn't fit into our little systems all the time. And so even in my work, I'm always open to that and trying to learn and understand more how this works. But I believe that regardless of, even though we see the traces of this, yes, it does underlie growth rates and plants, and it underlies the way that the solar systems are structured, and there's definitely a metric going on there. But more and more, I've become less interested in trying to determine all that, and more interested in the idea of whether or not the physical world is perfectly organized around these principles, that the fact that the mathematics itself displays this perfection, I believe that perhaps it's something that we can create and bring into this world. And so I'm more interested in the creative aspect of that perfection at this point than I am in trying to keep spending all my time getting into the details of connecting it with every different science. You know, I mean, when the money is there and people really want to pour into that research, I'm down to participate for sure. But you know, it's not physically or mentally worth it for me to kill myself, you know, solving the periodic table when nobody's taking me seriously anyway.
Right, gotcha. So, you know, I think we're gonna stop there for this first hour, and I definitely want to keep going on that line into the second segment, and definitely want to pick your brain on what you see for our future and what you kind of see for you know, possible applications of what you're bringing to the table. So, anyways. If you would, real quick before we break out of this segment, if you would share your website, and you are on your way to California to do some speaking and some work on a book and a film, right?
Yeah, I am. My website is www.theabha Kingdom, that's THEABHA Kingdom.com. And you know, it's got some information on there. You know, the website hasn't been updated in 3 or 4 years either, or at least in 2 years since the TED Talk was done. But we are hopefully going to be revamping a lot of that soon. I am going to be in LA speaking in a few private events and maybe possibly doing some public events too. And that's to sort of get things started for a film and a book project. And we were going to have a fundraiser going up for that, most likely within the next couple of days. And if people want to connect with me, they can connect with me on Facebook as well. Just look me up, Randy Powell, and you'll see a page that comes up with a little BDM symbol, and that's me. And, you know, if you can look for some information there, and I'm going to try to get the whole deal Twitter and all the ones so people can connect in, but I just haven't had any of that or had any help with that. So hopefully this will be a first step in that, getting information out.
Cool. Okay, well, I want everybody thank everybody for listening to this first hour, and if you want to check out the second hour, hit that member button, and if you are already a member, thank you very much for supporting Ramon and I and the 100th Monkey Radio. It's you guys that keep us on the air, and love you guys. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you in the second segment.
Space odyssey, look into the anomalies, and you will find suppression of free energy technology.
A false democracy born out of a monopoly. Sacred knowledge robbery, like the towers they topple in.
No stopping free.
J Brave,
Vito C.
Coming from the inner me.
Free energy.
the oil's running dry.
Our money's burning out.
Solar panels on the roof of the White House.
Hey, we bringing on some real change.
Water catchment system.
We collecting rain.
Time to gather round. The moment's now. I want it all turn out. And from the crowd, be the one who's the meditation. It's time for freedom and time to freedom and
Nikola Tesla perceived the earth as a conductor of acoustical resonance, and still his presence lives in the heart of visionary invention. Over 5,000 patents censored.
Researching 0-point energy, trying to get through delirium. The unified field theory of Nassim Harriman, and every day we carry in the burden of our past. Water fuel cars, we no longer need the gas.
So many solutions right here in your face. Raw earth energy, create what rejuvenates. Green walls and green roofs, grow plants on everything. Magnetic movements, don't need gas for anything. Space rockets, doing our own research, paying out of pocket. Bike-powered stages, you pedal in our rocket. Fully access to techie knowledge. Green power over big profit. You can't stop it.
ever think what the wars are fought for? Ever dream that the world could be more? I spend my life by earth, one chance we could do it together. Ever think what the wars are fought for? Ever dream that the world could be more? I spend my life by one
The Renaissance, third industrial revolution. Invention is the language of a worldwide solution. The body electromagnetic, plasma arc reactor, stubble field, Kautsky frost, freeze the knowledge lost.
Some people wait for 2012 to watch the earth shift, but in New Mexico they out there building earth ships. We got the language wrong, I got a new twist. The lifting of the veil, that's the true apocalypse.
Some see free energy as the enemy, but my genetic memory remembering that could never be. Thoughts float in the anti-gravity. A cubic foot of space can fuel the whole world annually.
You can choose to love or hate, revolt or maybe meditate, and every day we demonstrate so we can finally get it straight. Peace worldwide is the anthem that we celebrate. Free energy like the end of the movie Saint.
Time to gather